Welcome to Champion Minded, the podcast for those who aim for excellence, not only in the sports arena, but in life. My name is Allistair, author, speaker, mindset and performance coach, and my goal is to help you unleash your unlimited potential and provide you with the tools to achieve greatness. Are you ready to become champion minded? Then let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome to the Champion Minded podcast, or welcome back. I am your host, Allistair. Great to have you with me this week. On this week's episode of What It Takes, the show where I get to interview high performers in sports, I have Danny Cipriani. And any of you who are involved in the rugby world or play rugby will definitely recognize that name. Danny currently plays for Wasps in the Premiership in England and also has represented his country, England. He's also played for the Melbourne Rebels, Sale Sharks, and I was super excited to get him on the podcast as he's an incredibly busy guy. So without further ado, let's get into it, and I hope you enjoy this one. Hey Danny, welcome to What It Takes on the Champion Minded podcast.
Hello mate, how you doing?
Excellent, thank you. I know, Danny, you're in the middle of your season, and it's an incredibly busy time for you, so I really appreciate you taking the time, mate.
No problem whatsoever.
So, Danny, let's get straight into it. If you wouldn't mind just giving us a brief background of where you grew up and when you first started playing rugby.
I grew up, I lived in Trinidad and Tobago when I was younger, moved back to England, when I was 4, got into rugby when I was around 10. But to be fair, around that age, sport was always my release. It was something that I always found a lot of enjoyment and a great release. And I just remember my mum sort of, as a kid, it would always be, if you can play sport, if you do your homework, you can go and play sport. And if you have these sweet, if you sort of, that was always the carrot at the end of the stick for me. So it was always an incentive to do the things I had to do to be able to go and play sport in my environment. So, that was something which was driven from a young age and something which I've thoroughly enjoyed my whole of my life.
Now, Danny, I've followed your career, or probably for about the last 10 years, obviously, when you're in the England squad as well, and you've always been an incredibly multi-skilled athlete. I mean, I even think I saw a video of you once kicking a soccer ball around, and it was pretty impressive. Did you play a few sports when you were younger? Did you play multi-sports?
Yeah, that was something that I really enjoyed. I thoroughly enjoyed getting on the field in all different aspects, all different sports, learning new skills, different team skills, individual skills. And for me, like, playing football was probably one of my favourite sports as a kid. And when batting in cricket was also something which I loved doing. When you get your eye in, you're in the zone. There was nothing quite like that one-on-one challenge of you versus a fast bowler. So it was. I was very lucky to be get the opportunity to be able to play these sports, be at a school that could do it, or go to a club which would allow me to do it. And it was something that was always at the forefront of my mind.
I mean, what we've seen and what I've seen in your game is that you've got incredible leadership skills. Have you always been involved in team sports, or did you play any individual sports when you were younger?
Yeah, there were some individual sports that I played. I played squash at school. At county level when I was sort of like 12, 13. But it's mostly been team sports. We also took part in athletics, but for me it was just the camaraderie, the way you could build those relationships with your teammates. The fact that sometimes you might make a mistake, but then your teammate makes up for it, and later on you can do the same. And it's that chance to inspire, drive, and lead a group. And I've been in different teams, and different types of leadership skills have required different skills. It just depends where you are and what you're doing in your life. And early on it was a lot of just playing and listening and learning and leading in terms of the way we play the game. And then as you get older, the leadership moves on, and you sort of start trying to be an experienced head for the younger guys, and you find a lot of enjoyment in that. And it was a good 3-year period when I was at Sale that the thing I loved about rugby was really trying to help the younger players progress and move forward. Because I think with all sports and all subjects, you fall in and out of love of things at different moments. So it's just trying to find your reason why at that moment, your reason why you love it and what it is. Because then you can always go out there and perform at the highest level. And that was something that I really enjoyed, and I attached, success to that, which helped massively.
Speaking about motivation there, and I was going to go into this later on in the interview, but let's just jump into it right now. You've often mentioned in interviews the word purpose. How important is purpose in your life, and what is your purpose right now?
Yeah, I think purpose is huge, and I think that unheralded desire inside of you to strive to get better and improve your performance no matter where it's at, having the humility to understand even if you're at the top of your game, you've got great form, where can you improve, where can you start working on, don't rest on your laurels, where can I keep adapting. I think that's something that's been inbuilt in me from a young age, from the senior pros that I saw training and playing when I was younger, and certain mentors and coaches I've had that I've been very fortunate to have those words drilled in my head from a young age. So it's been something that's my purpose, is to just keep trying to strive and get better. And you always have these little reality checks. You get little injuries. You get losses of form. You get great moments of form, and you can feel yourself getting carried away and the ego taking over. But then it's always those moments where you can just keep trying to either reel it in or push the tempo, or whatever it may be that gets you back onto that purpose, gets back onto that that truly that flow of almost being in the zone completely, whether it be nailing your rehab. Every time I've got injured, my focus has been come back a better athlete. Whatever the injury is, what can I work on? What can I do? It's straight away.
Great advice.
From getting injured to the next day, that changes. That mindset that's what it is. And I had great influence to, make my mindset like that. So I'm grateful for the people that have been in my career to drive that.
I mean, let's move on to mentors and people in your life that have. I mean, would you say you're born with that mindset, or do you find that mindset has been developed? Your work ethic is high. Your teammates talk about your work ethic. It's people know that. Strong mentally. Your resilience is also one of the words that come to mind when they talk about you. So, where does that come from, Danny?
I think when you're young, for me, it was just the pure love of being on the field and doing extra training and extra practice. And I think that's when at that age you need, a good school coach, a good club coach to just direct you in the right manner, because you've got all this energy, this enthusiasm, but, there's definitely ways that you can do things better technically and more efficiently. So for me, I was very lucky. I had two great coaches in Brian Ashton and Sean Edwards, and I used to, I looked up to them. To me, they were like father figures, and they were very important roles in my life, and are still in my life to this day. So, I got the opportunity to really try and hone my skills as best I could in those environments. And, for me, it was a challenge every single day to just stay mentally on it and do things which might seem mundane, might seem not challenging, but it's something you got to keep doing just to keep your base level of skill high. And then, I think that once you channel that enthusiasm into doing the right types of skills and training, that's when you can start trying to get those little 1%ers, because it's something I've had a mentor for the last 5 years in Steve Black, and we've been keeping a journal. We keep a training journal. We keep a daily journal. And 3 things you've done good, 3 things you can improve on. It might vary. It might be 4 things one day. It might be 5 things or less. It doesn't matter. But as long as you're making these notes, and then you can constantly see this small incremental areas of improvement. And that's where the Kaizen theory, which I've worked with Steve on, is huge in terms of making sure we keep getting better day by day. Yeah,
that's excellent. Do you religiously journal every day? Is that something you do every day?
There was a period of 4 or 5 years where I was religiously doing a journal every single day, and it was something that was massively part of my training, and since I've come to Wasps, my leadership role has taken on a bigger note, and I guess the individual side of it probably hasn't been at the forefront of my mind. It's more been watching plays, learning things that how to beat this opposition, how to beat that opposition. It becomes a very dominant, this is how we're going to attack, this is where we're going to go, and this is what we're going to do. So that's been mostly my focus, but it's something I do keep coming back to. It's something that I should keep coming back to. And it's something that, I've definitely taken big parts from different books. Like I'm reading a book called Relentless at the minute, and it's a completely different concept because it's not something I've been reading recently. I've read your book. I read Ego is the Enemy. It's all about challenging the ego and staying, pretty humble but still wanting to work hard. Whereas this is almost saying the opposite. It's almost saying
Tim Grosvenor, isn't it?
You're better than everyone. And and it's just very interesting the flip on it. And it's it's not saying live your life one way or the other, but it's just giving me a bit of inspiration, to go out there and just make sure I finish this season as strong as I can. Yeah,
it's definitely a book that type. I've read Relentless as well. It's definitely a book that type of fires you up a little bit more, isn't it?
Fires you up. You've read it, it. It's reading the passages about players that flew back to do this and to do that, and different moments, and it's a different concept, and it's not. I don't think it's so much a book to live your life by, but It's definitely, if you want some motivation for that moment and your reason why, it can give you a bit of purpose and a bit of just drive and direction.
Yeah. For the listeners out there, Relentless is Tim Grosvenor, who is actually a great trainer here in the United States. He's worked with Dwayne Wade and he worked with Michael Jordan, didn't he?
Michael Jordan, 15 years. 15 years he did,
Yeah. Anyway, Danny, you've achieved the highest level in your sport, obviously playing for England. What would you say are the main differences between playing for your country and playing for your club?
I think the main difference is playing for your club and country is, first of all, the professionalism. When you play for your country, everything's laid out for you. It's all designed for you to be the best. You stay in the best hotels. You've got the best training facilities, the best training park. You're training at the right times. You eat the right foods. It is so all in front of you just to go and succeed, which with that brings added pressure. So the quality and standard of international rugby is obviously of a high quality, but it's never really very expansive because teams have more pressure on them, so they have to play to a certain way to win those games, and you don't always have the longest preparation with a squad to go into a game. And I think that's where the All Blacks, New Zealand, are very fortunate because they get a lot of time together. The provinces are all together, and they can transition very well from club into international rugby and still have that expansive variety of playing rugby, but with a high skill set to it. So with that pressure that international rugby brings, I think it then just means that winning becomes the focus, which it should always be, but it should also be about performance and bettering skills, because with bettering skills and performance comes winning. Because that's when you start finding ways to win. Club rugby for me is very attritional because we can play between 32, 35 games a year, and it's mentally a huge mind game because you have to get yourself up for a game every single week. And you don't perform well, you don't succeed one weekend, bang, you've got to get back on it again the next week, and it's just a constant grind of playing the entire time. So the skills and the pressures, they're very easily transferred. But, that pressure of everything being laid out for you, playing in front of 80,000, the weight of the nation on your shoulders, it does add a huge amount.
Do you enjoy pressure, Danny? Is it something you?
Yeah, it's something I've always. I'd rather play in front of 80,000 people than 10 people. It's just something that I've always been. That might be a bit of the showman inside of me. But when that's the case, I much prefer those games because those are memories, those are things you can really take from. Because I think when men are tested with bad injuries, big pressure environment games, difficult things going on at home, that's when the true character of the man's revealed, and you need to keep stepping up to that task. And those knockdowns, all those things, they're all in the same sort of boat where you just got to keep stepping up and keep showing your resilience. And it's a great challenge, and it's you play your whole season trying to get to those big games, like get to those semi-finals, those finals played in front of 8,000 people. Yeah. It's huge, and it's just something that you want to keep driving towards.
Yeah. Last one on the mental side and the mindset side before we go into the fitness side. I mean, obviously we've discussed how important mindset and mental toughness is in sport, but what do you do to work on yours? You said you had a mentor, obviously, in Steve Black, who's very, very well known in that circle, but is there anything else you do to work on your mental side?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. I think one of the biggest things when I met him 5 years ago that he did for me was we just started getting back into education. We started reading a lot of books. We started, really, assessing and getting into and analyzing books. And I think when you start putting it towards something you love to do, for me, which is perform, get better and improve, I started really enjoy reading and writing and, writing over the book and learning parts from it, because it felt like there was a purpose to it. For me, I was never that great at school because it wasn't something that I loved. So it was tough. I had to do it. I had to get through what I did, and I did, but I didn't do it, as good as I could have, because it was never my driver. But, 5 years ago, getting back into it and trying to continue and better my education, it's been a massive thing mentally, just to clear my mind and really be able to help myself away from the game. But with that, I've also been meditating a lot, mindfulness, trying to be still, a lot of visualization towards the latter part of the weeks when it comes to games. And with all that, it's just given me quite a calm influence, a calm persona on the field, which you definitely need in my position at fly half, which is similar to the quarterback role.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Danny, there's a part in my book called Prepper Readiness. It's basically comes down to the day of the event. Do you follow a certain routine, certain structure when you wake up on game day?
You see, I remember when I was younger, one of my best friends, he had this Lucky T-shirt. He'd always put on his sock this one, and he'd have such a routine. I remember he lost his T-shirt. He lost his mind. I was watching him, and I was just like, I just thought to myself, my routine begins when I get to the stadium.
Okay.
So whatever happens pre and post, as soon as I arrive at the stadium, I've mentally rehearsed the game already in my head. I've already played the game the day before. I've already visualized my teammates doing great things, myself doing great things, the kit I've got on, who you're playing against, what you're doing. I've already visualized those things, so I already feel pretty well prepared. So when I get to the stadium and it's 2 hours before kickoffs, I've got a great chance to have half an hour to myself, get some treatment, get ready to go, and then I'm out hour before the game. I'm warming up, and I'm into my routine, my kicking, preparing my body. I'm very routine. I follow a routine when it comes to that. In that situation, but I just never wanted to have something which I had to do because we've got away games, we're in a hotel, we're here, we're there. So I've never tried to, do that. But having said that, I'm always trying to drink lots of water, eat healthy. So I guess that comes part of the routine. But it's never been like a particular meal or anything like that for one game.
Gotcha. I mean, because the different things work for different players. I've worked with a lot of athletes.
So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's what works for the individual, and a lot of the times, in fact, when I first start working with a new player, be it in whatever sport it may be in, the first thing I want to do is obviously look at what a day looks like for them. Do they have structure? But I also want to know what game day looks like. And get a routine and structure, because I believe if you don't have routines, you don't have structure, then that is how anxiety is created, because you might be playing a better team, a lesser team, and then you're starting to be dictated by the environment and being dictated by, I'm not going to warm up as hard, or you know where I'm going here, especially with younger athletes. So I'm very much for instilling the routines, but and I've had players that love to listen to high beat music and pump music for half an hour. And I have players that just want to be left alone. They want to go sit in the corner and not speak to anybody. So, I always say whatever works for you, stick to it. you know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I say I don't have a match day routine, and it's not very particular, but, for me, the routine starts during the week. You're doing the right training, right preparation. You're visualizing, you're getting ready, you're preparing yourself to the very best you can. That becomes routine in itself. And then, you get to the game day, it's that confidence of knowing that you've done what you need to do prior to the game. And then enter into the fold, it almost feels like it's second nature. But I guess that's because I've been doing it for 10 years, 13 years now. So when I was younger, I probably did have more of a routine and I was searching for it. But I just never wanted to be thrown off routine and let anything throw me off my game. So it was, it's something that I definitely think is needed, a structure. And that can start 7 days prior to a game, not necessarily just a day of, but it's something, because you've got to live your life right. You've got to live right, ready to play, ready to train.
I mean, you spoke about visualization there, and it's something I jumped into also in the book Champion Minded with regards Michael Phelps, and a lot of athletes I find visualize the perfect performance, and as we know, 100 things can go wrong, especially in a rugby game where there's so many variables, there's so many uncontrollables. I mean, you would know better than all of us here with regards to that aspect, but you speak about visualizing, the perfect scenario, the color of your opponent's kits, the faces, whatever it may be. But do you ever visualize a situation going wrong and what you would do to respond to that? Because Phelps, why I say that is because Phelps would visualize the perfect race and a race where here are 10 scenarios that could go wrong. I could bump my head against the wall on the turnover. I could have water fill my goggles, which actually did happen in one of the World Championship races where his goggles filled with water, but he had prepared for it. So what's your take on that, Danny?
Yeah, I read that chapter in the book, and I almost feel like when you're visualizing, your brain never allows you to think of the perfect game anyway. Like, the way it is sometimes you just naturally go off track and something doesn't go right. And it's just constantly just trying to find your way to put yourself back on track. And it's just knowing that, fortunately in my sport, in a game of 80 minutes, you're going to make mistakes. It's just bang, what's next? What's my next focus? What's my next task? I need to get back on track. You can't ever, rest on that or get frustrated too much because, you don't have those moments where you've got those moments you can afford to just move on to the next thing. Whereas obviously Michael Phelps, that race is so perfectly done in terms of the structure and the timing. So for him, he's got to recreate those moments which don't happen well. Those 100-meter sprinters, they've got 10 seconds to make sure everything goes well. Whereas in a game of 80 minutes, it's just constantly what's next. Boom, yeah, I've done that. I've played that pass. That was good. Now, where we gone next? When I make this kick to touch, yep, strong, look confident, kick it well. All right, now here's the line out. Cool. It's just constantly moving on to the next process. I think that's just something which I think is a huge skill and a huge factor you can add to your game, especially in team sports.
Yeah, because obviously those are completely two different sports. I mean, Phelps's environment is a little bit more controlled than yours. I mean, it's him swimming in a lane, or a golfer's environment is maybe a little bit more controlled than yours because, This is one of my favorite quotes, Danny, is Mike Tyson's, everybody's got a plan until they get hit. And in rugby, exactly. It can be the same thing where you get hit by a Sonny Bill Williams or someone, and that plan type of went out the window for a few minutes until you got yourself back on your feet again,
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. I definitely agree with that. And it's just like with golfers, you can see it's like for some people, aggression and anger would get themselves back on track. Look at John McEnroe, what an unbelievable talent. And for him, it was almost like he had to play at that edge, at the brink of aggression and anger to allow himself to get back onto the next point. It wasn't like it affected his performance. Whereas some people, a Roger Federer, makes a mistake, you wouldn't even know. He's on to the next process. So it's just trying to work out what's good for you.
It's a great comparison because obviously Andy Murray is Britain's best player, actually, until this year because of the injury. It's now Carl Edmund, but Murray, obviously a two-time a Wimbledon champion, as we know. But Murray comes across sometimes negative, low energy. But here's the thing about Murray is that when he's stepping up to the line, that mindset has shifted, and that's what the viewers at home don't see. Is that they see him looking negative between points for 20 seconds. But his ability, and this is what I think Mac did as well, John McEnroe did so well as well, is that he was able to flick the switch. He was able to focus the minute that ball was in play.
Yeah. No, for sure. Something I've seen a difference in Murray's game as well is he used to always look to his coach, always rely on that and always do that, and almost look like he's having a constant two-way conversation. Whereas, it was almost like he came more into himself, more confident, more understanding, and he was having those moments, but like you're saying, he was getting back on track quicker, which allowed himself just to keep playing at the high level in talent, which he deserves.
And that's it, Danny. I'd rather have, obviously it's great to have a positive player, and Federer is a great example, and that we're, using a tennis example, but I'd rather have a player getting rid of emotions and being a little negative and standing up to the line positive than the other way around. You know what I mean? They're trying to disguise it, and then they're still negative when they step up. So anyway, let's get back onto rugby, because that's obviously what we want to talk about, rugby, and obviously high performance in life. Fitness, Danny. You've had a fantastic season. Even some people are talking about it that it could be one of your best seasons. You're 31. It seems like you've been around for ages. You've got tons of experience. Fitness. Now, if we look at height, well, we just spoke about Federer. He's 38, and he's number one in the world. We look at Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo is 35 now. We're seeing an era where athletes are performing at their highest in their mid-30s and even into their late 30s. What's your view? What's your view on that? And why do you think athletes are being able to do that?
First of all, I'm 30, so you're adding years to me already. Which I like.
Apologies.
No, but my view on it is, when I was younger, I remember speaking to my fitness coach, my sprint coach, Margot Wells, and she was always just talking about how sprinters, as they get better, they get more powerful, stronger, quicker, and they also start to understand their bodies and their race better. You look at people like Olympia Christie, he was 35 when he won Olympic gold. You look at some of these top sprinters, as they get older, they started really performing at a really high level because of the experience. And, your body should never diminish if you're doing the right type of training, until you're 35, 36. And then it's completely into experience and trying to work out where you're at. And I think it's been a huge worry, a huge conversation that a lot of sports have said that when you get 30 and over, they start talking about 1-year contracts, 2-year contracts, as opposed to the 3 and 4s you were getting even at 29. It's that crucial age where people start changing it. But I think, when you get to that age, it's all about mindset. It's all about what's inbuilt in that individual. Because if you feel like you're getting to 30 and you're down the hill and you're looking at what your next thing is, that's exactly where you're going to be going. But if you truly believe you're going to keep getting better the entire time until the day you finish, keep Kaizen every single day, every small part helps, every little bit of training, there is something that you can keep learning from, because there's no way anyone's a complete player until, you never ever get that perfect performance. Even people like Messi and the Ronaldos of the world, they're as close as they get to it. But the thing is, you can see their drive is still to always try and achieve it. Ronaldo, like you say, 33, he's having an unbelievable season, and people are writing him off.
Yeah.
So I think it's great to see that, and it's mindset, it's strength. I think it's the fact that there's more books coming out like yours. There's been, over the last 10 years, I think there's been a massive shift in psychology. So I think it's really helping the whole shape of sport and the mindset of the athlete as they progress in their career.
Danny, it's so awesome just to get your perspective on this, someone that's had so much experience and at the highest level as well. So thank you again, mate. a champion-minded thinker is somebody that thinks out the box when it comes to preparation and self-improvement. And I did a little bit of research on with you as well, that you'd spent some time with the MLS soccer team, the Colorado Rapids. You'd even spent some time with Tottenham Hotspurs doing some training. So it seems to me that you're an out-of-the-box thinker when it comes to preparation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I finished my contract in England. I signed in Australia, and because of the way the seasons worked out, I had 5 months off. So I wanted to keep fit. I wanted to keep training, and I just wanted to work on my spatial awareness. And what better sport than football? Because it's one of the most highly skilled sports out there, and it's all about spatial awareness. And I had a great time training with them, being in a different environment. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was something that it was a great part of my life. Made some great friends, and I definitely learned a lot from being in a different environment, and things that definitely in rugby you could learn from, and some things that they may be able to learn from. But it was something that I thoroughly enjoyed, and it really opened my eyes in different ways, and it showed me that when I finish, I'd quite like to mentor some sportsmen, and especially young footballers, in the ability to perform and how to stay at the top level, how to interact with coaches. And it was something that, that experience taught me.
Excellent. That would be, especially today, that would be greatly needed. So just someone that's been there and someone who understands what it takes. So, Danny, let's move on to the team. In terms of, teamwork, what, in your opinion, makes a great team player?
A great team player, I think, starts with them individually trying to get physically and game aware as possible as they can be. So they're honing their skills, and their drive is to be the best that they can be. And with that, humility and lack of ego, to be able to step back and understand this person here has a certain set of skills. I want to listen to this person so we can drive in this area. Step back and understand this person's also got a certain set of skills. How can we let this person come to the forefront and lead? Because it's always a difficult situation in team sport when you've got certain players trying to lead, and other players may feel that they could add and they could do it. And the best way you can do that is by performance and leading on the field, and leading by example in terms of the way you train, the way you handle your body, all those types of things. Because if you keep that down to a T, people will then start to follow you. So I think it's important that within a team, it's that drive, that unbelievable urge to get better the whole time, but also the humility and lack of ego to really take note from your teammates and what can you learn from each situation. Because with that combined, I just feel like you get a good blend of a teammate.
You mentioned the word, obviously, ego there quite a bit, and humility. And I know you've read Ryan Holiday's book "Ego is the Enemy," which is an excellent book. I wrote so many notes in that book on the side, and I still go back to it now and then. But I'm going to challenge you here, Danny. Confidence. Would you say confidence has something to do with ego as well? Isn't some ego important to have a certain confidence?
Yeah, I think from reading that book, people have misconstrued what the word ego means, or what it means in that context. Because I do agree that you need to have that self-belief, you need to have that understanding, and that downright determination where you know how good you are and how good you can be. And with that, the selfless and the lack of ego comes with the recognition of where you can improve. You can't blindly be saying you're great at one skill, but you're not actually analyzing and working on it and actually seeing the true outcome of it. If you can say you're great at one skill and the outcome is excellent every single time, you still have that self-awareness to still keep trying to improve that skill. If you can, help one of your teammates to improve the skill you're great at, and then your ability and awareness is still going to grow. But I think it's having that self-awareness of knowing what you're great at, what you can improve on, and where you can go. And I think with that is what shows a lack of ego, but still having the confidence and belief in what you're doing.
I like that, because when somebody asks me what true self-confidence is, I believe it's a your ability to embrace your strengths and weaknesses with the same humility. And it's always been something I've always tried to remember, because your strengths are what make you great, but it's your weaknesses that you've got to embrace and see in the same light as well. So it's not always easy, but no, that's well explained. So thanks, Danny. Danny, moving on to coaching. What makes a great coach?
A great coach, I think a great coach is someone who puts in a lot of time and a lot of effort, because immediately you get the respect from the players. You see how hard they work. A great coach, I think when you get a good coach, for me, it's someone who's very approachable, can deliver the correct message, and he'll have that awareness of each individual as a player too, which in a team sport can be different. He'll have that awareness of how to treat each individual, because not everyone's the same, but still by getting the best out of them, by giving them the right drivers. So I think it's someone that you really would go to war for. For me, Sean Edwards, he was the Wigan and he is the Welsh, and he's coached Wasps. He was phenomenal. He had so many strange nuances about him that just made you love him. But also, if you messed up, you was going to get a rollicking from him. So it's also that desire to not let that coach down, and that's inbuilt in time and in relationship, and really them investing in the younger players, the senior players, and just helping improve everyone in and around the squad. Because as soon as you're trying to do that as a coach, straight away, you as a player, this guy cares about me. He's trying to get me better, and you listen. You want to move on. So I think it's that. I think it's being able to know each individual, being very diligent in your work, and also understand as well that you don't know everything. You deliver every message as you can and be as positive, and also throwing up questions for players to answer, because that's something where players can come to the forefront. You can have a great discussion, and from that, everyone's going to learn from that subject. As soon as it becomes a dictatorship, you're going to struggle to find world-class players.
Would you think, Danny, that we're now phasing out of the old Bobby Knight style of coaching, with ruling with a stick and my way or the highway, where coaches are now realizing today that doesn't work anymore, especially with the generation we're with today? Like you spoke about their humility, adapting. 20, 30 years ago, it was, if the coach said jump, you jump. There's no questioning that. So would you say that type of being phased out now, and we've gone into a new era of coaching?
Yeah, I definitely think in other sports that would definitely be implemented. I think, I watch a lot of NFL documentaries and behind the scenes of how teams operate, and it does seem that way. It does seem coaches are changing. But there is also that sternness about those coaches, which, you don't want to let them down. They're going to tell you what's what at the right time. But they've also got that lovable, figure about them, because you see some, I think who's the San Fran guy? Is it San Fran or 49ers? Aris, Brian or Bob Aris? Or, I forget his name, but
Bryant, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is. Not too sure.
Brian, yeah, just to work out that one, he signed Adrian Peterson later in the season. There's Larry Fitzgerald. Then he was just talking about how he knows how to get the best of the senior players. There's a documentary where he is fully going at people, and people are listening to him. But he's also got the ability to talk to his senior players, talk to certain individuals, and learn and come together with some sort of conclusion. But I do think it's being phased out, because the modern day player is not only trying to be the best athlete they can be, they're reading books to try and educate themselves to become mentally better, psychologically better, learn more about the game, because players know that they need to improve every single facet of what's in front of them to even try and make it nowadays. So I think, to have those slightly smarter and more aware players now is going to definitely bring up a slightly different coaching system.
Mm. Okay, Danny, excellent. Moving on to the rapid fire questions. One word or sentence. Are you ready?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, here we go. Favorite hobby?
That's favorite hobby. Cinema. Going to the cinema. I love doing it. Switching off.
Favorite band or musician?
Lil Wayne or Drake.
Okay, thought you would have been a Kanye fan or a. Saw you tweet something the other day with who was it? Kendrick Lamar, I think. Was it?
Yeah. Kendrick Lamar, yeah. J. Cole. At the minute, to be honest, they're all coming to the forefront because the words that they put into songs, it's so relevant. They mean a lot, and yeah, those guys are great.
Favorite sport to watch besides rugby?
NBA.
Favorite Olympic sport to watch?
100 meters.
Mm-hmm. Last book read?
Last book read. I'm currently reading one. I say the last book that I
your current book, either one.
Yeah, Ego is the Enemy one.
Ego is the Enemy. Yep. Okay. Favorite food?
Oh, that's tough.
So many.
West Indian food, like jerk chicken. Just food from my childhood.
Favorite movie?
That's near on impossible. Favorite movie? The Notebook.
The Notebook. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, mate. I know about the movie, but I don't want to watch it. I'm too scared to end up bucketing at the end. So.
Yeah, you need to show emotion. There's no problem
yeah,
with that.
True. And just talking about that, I think another great book. I know it's awesome talking to you about books. Lewis Howes has brought out a great book called The Mask of Masculinity, which touches on that subject as well. He's actually very, very good friends with Ryan Holiday as well of Ego the Enemy, but they write the same as well. But that's another great book out there as well, The Mask of Masculinity.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah,
that's
Lewis Howes. Let's see. Favorite sports team?
Chelsea.
Okay. Favorite country or place ever visited?
I love going to Malibu, but yeah, I'd have to say Malibu.
Okay, in California. Actually, heading out there on Friday, so I'll send you regards. Yeah. Tea, coffee, or protein shake? Coffee. Favorite athlete, male or female, past or present?
Oh, I don't even know if I could answer that.
No? Okay, let's skip that.
My favorite up-and-coming athlete right now is Saquon Barkley. He's just about to go into the draft. I think he might go first.
Okay, all right. For which team? Is that basketball?
He was at Penn State. It was NFL.
NFL?
Yeah, I think he's probably the most well-rounded, explosive athlete of that age I've ever witnessed.
I tell you, Danny, you really know your American sport, huh?
Yeah, I just think they've got it down pat.
Toughest opponent you've faced on a rugby pitch?
Skulkberger.
Skulkberger, the South African. Skulk was a lock, was he, or?
No, it's flanker.
Flanker. Yep. One word that best describes you.
Resilient.
I like that. Biggest pet peeve?
Untidiness.
All right, and the last one, rule follower or risk taker?
Yeah, I've been a risk taker since day one.
Okay, there we go. All right, Danny. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know you're heck of a busy, and it's nighttime there in the UK as well. I appreciate it. I know that the listeners are really, really have enjoyed this. If we want to follow you out there, what would be the best way on social media?
Just Twitter and Instagram are the same at Cipriani87. But no, I've enjoyed it, man. I've enjoyed the chat, and I enjoy your work, and I'm looking forward to finishing your book.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And final question before I let you go, Danny, what does it take to be champion-minded?
What does it take to be champion-minded?
Even in 2 sentences.
I think we said it before, but that the resilience and the drive to become better each day, small margins in your skills, but the humility to also understand where you can keep improving.
Beautifully put. Danny, thanks so much for your time, and best of luck for the rest of the season, mate.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with anyone who you might know would benefit from it, or who aims to create excellence in their life. Also, please head on over to iTunes, subscribe, and please leave a review. I would greatly appreciate that. And don't forget that this podcast is also available on YouTube. If you'd like to stay connected, I'm on social media at Twitter at Allistair McCall, Instagram, Be Champion Minded, Facebook, McCall Method, and if you'd like to leave a comment, share some feedback, then please email me at mccallmethod@aol.com. Also, big thanks to all of you who share my posts on social media under the hashtag ChampionMinded. I greatly appreciate it. So, until next week, remember you were made for greatness. Now go out and do the work. Until next time, stay champion-minded, my friends.